Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about Unit 2, Lesson 5, and it's about the past simple and the past continuous, both in one sentence. So let's move on. But before we start, we will do a quick revision. Rewrite the following sentences using the words in brackets. Number 1, Harry went swimming in the sea yesterday. Here we need to make a question using where. And yes, you take your 3 seconds. And the answer is going to be, where did Harry go swimming yesterday? Number 2, I did judo 3 weeks ago. And again, here we need to make a question using when. Yes, actually the answer is, when did you do judo? Number 3, he enjoyed watching sports on TV. Use not. Yes, go for it. And the answer is going to be, he didn't enjoy watching sports on TV. Please stay with me. As we see, today we are going to talk about the past continuous tense. So what is the form of the past continuous tense? At the beginning of any sentence, we must put the subject. Yes, and then we have to write was or were. As we know that was is used with the singular noun or he, she, or it. Or absolutely, you can use I. And where with the plural nouns. And maybe with the pronouns we, you, they. And we use the verb plus ing or the gerund. For example, she was reading a story yesterday night. So she is the subject and it takes was and the verb, which is read plus ing, and it will be reading. For another one, the girls were playing when it began to rain. Here we can see that the past continuous here is only were playing. The girls are the subject, were and playing. So the usage, or why do we use the past continuous? The past continuous is used to say that somebody was in the middle of the action of doing something at a certain time. And please focus here at a certain time. If we go back to the first sentence, we will see she was reading a story yesterday night. And here the certain time was yesterday night. And for the other one, the girls were playing when it began to rain. So the certain time here, it's the sentence when it began to rain. And to talk more about the past continuous, we will say that the action or the situation had already started before this time, but hadn't finished. That means it started and continued for a period of time. But we mustn't forget about the certain time in the past. Stay with me. For example, I was having my meal at 10 p.m. last night. If we just say last night, it won't be a certain time. But the certain time here, it's 10 p.m. The second one, I waved to her, but she wasn't looking. So, the action here that I was waving, or I waved, but she wasn't looking. So, the past continuous here is wasn't and looking. We said in the past simple that it focuses on the action, not the timing. But here, we just focus on the timing more than the action. I will say I was playing football yesterday evening. And like we said before, yes, yesterday evening is the timing and it's a certain time in the past. But we mustn't say I was playing football only or I was playing football yesterday, because here it would be a past simple tense. Now we will know how to connect or how to link between the past continuous and the past simple. Number one, we have many cases, but for number one, if we have two actions that were happening at the same time in the past, two actions that were happening, this is a long action, were happening, I will use while. So, while past continuous, it's the long action, comma, and for the second part of the sentence, we will also use the past continuous. Like when I tell you, while I was sleeping, my mom was reading a book. The two actions were happening at the same time in the past. And you must know that no action interrupted the other one. And for the next example, I will say my friend Ali was having his lesson while his dad was watching TV. So the lesson wasn't interrupted and his dad was watching. Let's move on. Number two, if we have two actions, one happened after the second had already started happening. And like what I told you, an action that is interrupted with another action, or a long action that is interrupted with a short action. For example, while we were playing in the yard, Ali arrived. That means when Ali arrived, we stopped playing in the yard. For the next one, Dad came home while we were listening to music. So we were listening to music, but when Dad came home, we stopped listening. That means the long action that we were listening was interrupted by the short action when Dad came. And we can say when instead of while, but after when we will use the past simple, the short action. And for the other part, we will use the past continuous, which is the long action. I will say, when Dad arrived home, Sarah was doing her homework. So we have a long action that Sarah was doing her homework, and it was interrupted when Dad arrived home. She stopped studying. Let's move on. Now we have some exercises. Number one, rewrite the following sentences. Number one, Ali Ahmed was sleeping when his friend knocked at the door. I just want to make a question using what? So, take your 3 seconds. And yes, the answer is, what was Ahmed doing when his friends knocked at the door? Let's move on to number two. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. Here we have two actions that were happening at the same time in the past. So we will say while, and we will use the two actions in the past continuous. So it will be, while the sun was shining, the birds were singing. And thank you. And now let's move on to the sheet. And for the first exercise, choose the correct answer. Number one, While he were was played a game, his brothers were watching TV. So, as we know, while takes the longer action, and yes, you have your 3 seconds. And okay, yes, the answer is going to be was playing. And we will say, while he was playing a game, his brothers were watching TV. Number two, Ronnie was fell, falling down while running down the stairs. And yes, we have while running down the stairs, it's the longer action and it's the past continuous, so we will take the past simple. And yes, the answer is going to be Ronnie fell down while running down the stairs. Number three, when the light went out, Summer was studying, studies her lessons. Now we can focus on when the light went out. We have the past simple, and it's the action which stopped the other action. And yes, the answer is going to be yes, was studying, sorry. So, when the light went out, Summer was studying her lessons. Now let's go to number 4. Our father was having his tea, and at the same time talking about the last match between Egypt and Ghana. So we have two actions that were happening at the same time. So we will use the past continuous for the two actions. And the answer is going to be, yes, you are a good guesser, and it will be we're talking. So I will say, our father was having his tea at the same time we were talking about the last match between Egypt and Ghana. Number 5, my telephone rang while we slept or were sleeping. So you have your 3 seconds. And yes, the answer is we're sleeping. So we will say, my telephone rang while we were sleeping. Number 6, I stood up, walked to the door and the room. So we have actions that happened after each other. And they are all in the past simple. So the answer is easy and it's clear, so it will be yes. Left. So I will say, I stood up, walked to the door and left the room. Number 7, thousands of the spectators cheered when Ronaldo scored, was scoring the winning goal. So we have win, and the answer is actually clear, and we will talk about Ronaldo when he scored the winning goal. So we will say, thousands of the spectators cheered when Ronaldo scored the winning goal. Number 8, he was traveling to Alex when he had a terrible accident. So we have win again. So the answer is going to be yes, had. And we will say, he was traveling to Alex when he had a terrible accident. And now number 9, it was raining, is raining, but lots of people were jogging in the park. So we have two actions that were happening at the same time, and it will be yes, it was raining. So I will say it was raining, but lots of people were jogging in the park. Number 8, and I'm sorry, number 10. What are you doing? Where are you doing? Do you doing when you fell over? When I fell over, that is the second part of the sentence and it's in the past continuous. So it must be the shorter action. So we will say, yes, what were you doing when you fell over? Number 11. Ian, we're sleeping. Ian, we're shopping. Is shopping, was shopping. Shopping in town when I saw him. So the answer is going to be so clear and you will have your 3 seconds. So yes, the answer is Ian was shopping. So we will say Ian was shopping in town when I saw him. Number 12, he did retired, was retiring, retires from playing football last year and now he's a coach. So, last year, and it should refer to the past simple. So the answer is going to be yes, he retired. So it will be he retired from playing football last year and now he's a coach. Exercise number 2. Rewrite the following sentences. Number 1. Once I saw the thief, I called the police. I want to use on. Yes, I know that it's new, but you must know that on equals while. So the same we do with while, we will do it on. So the answer is going to be yes, but you need to know that on is a preposition and the preposition must be followed by verb plus ing or a noun. So I will say on seeing the thief, I called the police. And it's easy and clear. Number 2, the sun was shining and the birds were singing. We need to use while. Now we have 2 actions that were happening at the same time. So we will say while the sun was shining, the birds were singing. And let's move on to number 3. While Amy was driving her car, she crashed into a tree. I want to use when instead of while at the beginning of the sentence. So it will be when Amy crashed into a tree, she was driving her car. Now let's move on to number 4. Doctors say that he will take time to get well. And we know that recuperate is the same to get well. So we will say doctors say that he will take time to recuperate. Now let's go to number 5. I woke up while my father was shouting at my bedroom door. As all the time, he is doing the same. So we need to use while at the beginning of the sentence. So I will say, yes, you take your 3 seconds. While My father was shouting at the bedroom door. I woke up. So let's move on to number 6. When he hurt his leg, he was playing football. We want to use while instead of when at the beginning of the sentence. So we will say, while he was playing football, he hurt his leg. Now let's go to number 7. He listened to the radio and he had breakfast at the same time, and we need to use while. Again, he listened to the radio and he had breakfast at the same time. Here we have two actions that were happening at the same time, and we will say, yes, while he was listening to the radio, he had breakfast. Let's move on to number 8. My father fell off the ladder while he was painting the carpet. Here at this sentence, we need to use when. And we will say, yes. But here you need to know that when will be used in the middle of the sentence. So we will say, my father was painting the carpet when he fell off the ladder. Now let's move on to number 9. George was laughing at us. I want to use fun. Laugh at equals an expression and it is make fun of. So we will say George was making fun of us. Now let's go to the last one, and number 10. While my mother was cooking, I finished my homework. I want to use when in the middle of the sentence. And we need to know that when takes the past simple. So we will say my mother was cooking when I finished my homework. Again, I will say my mother was cooking when I finished my homework. And thank you.